So insurance write-offs, what do you think of them? Would you buy one? Would you never consider it? Well, I've had a few over the last few years, so I'll share my experiences with you. Now, at the moment, what I'm riding here now at the moment, my Ducati Multistrada 1200, I bought this 2.5 years ago, and it's a category N. Now, before I go any further, let me just explain what the different insurance categories are. So you've got 4 main categories: Category A, Category B, Category S, and Category N. So Category A is the most severe of all of them. A Category A vehicle is just completely mullered. You can't put it back in the road, you can't use any parts from it, it has to be scrapped, crushed, never see the light of day again. A Category B has also been mullered, but not quite as bad. At least some of the parts can be used for spares. The vehicle itself can't be put back in the road, but yeah, so some spares can be taken off it. Category S is a vehicle that's been structurally damaged, but it can be repaired and it can be put back in the road. And then Category N is non-structural. So Category N vehicles can have very little damage. They could, there could be just some scratches, just some panels, and there might not be very little wrong with it at all. In my opinion, I think they're great value. So let me show you what I'll show you what my Ducati, what damage and so on it had to it. So I was very lucky with this. When I was looking at it, I did all the sums. I could see what I thought needed doing to it. I could also see that it was due a service because the service light was on the dash, and the mileage was 18,000 miles. So I knew the service that's going to be due is going to be the Desmo service, which was an expensive one, which would have been £500-600. So I allowed for that as well. I put the price of that in there as well. Now, looking at the pictures, all I could see was wrong with it was the handguard here was broken, and there was a scratch along here. That's all I could see. So obviously there could be more things wrong with it I didn't know, but I thought, right, I'll take a punt on that, and I bought it for £5,250. Now, at the time, you would have been looking at about £8,000 for one that wasn't crashed. But when I got the bike, I had it up. Now, all that was wrong with it was, like I said, the handguard was broken. I've got another handguard to replace this, but I've just repaired this one, so you can see just a repair mark there and in there. I just glued those and stapled them back together again. That was 2.5 years ago, and it's been fine ever since. I took this panel off and resprayed it, and that's all I've done to it. I kid you not, that is all I've done. The only other thing I can find wrong with it is, I don't know how well the camera will pick this up, but there's a few little scuff marks along there, and around there there's a little scratch, and that is it. That is all that is wrong with it, and that was written off for that. Excuse me. And I got it for nearly £3,000 less than what it was. Wow, there's a storm coming in here. I think I should probably just turn around here and head for home, because I've got a feeling I'm going to get very wet very quickly now in a minute. I was hoping to come up here, we'd have a lovely sunset and it'd be beautiful weather, but yeah, all that rain is heading this direction. Right, I'm going home. So the advantages of buying an insurance write-off, obviously the cost. They're usually about 30%, 25 to 30% lower in price. When you're buying one that hasn't been repaired, it can be even lower than that. So you'll see a lot of bikes, and cars for that matter, and you think, how on earth has that been written off? Or why has it been written off? Now insurers use what they call a repair to value. So basically they'll deem that if they'll send out an assessor, and he'll come out, have a look at the vehicle, and if he's working on a repair to value of 60%, say, he'll tot up everything that needs to be done to the vehicle to get it back into excuse me, to get it back into the condition it was in pre-accident. And if that comes to within 60% of the vehicle's value, he'll class it as a write-off. Now bear in mind, when the insurance company are repairing it, they will have to use brand new genuine parts, and they will have to, like I've just showed you on my bike there, so like for example the front mudguard, it's a tiny little scuff. Doesn't bother me, it probably wouldn't bother most people, but they would have to repair that with a brand new mudguard from Ducati. And all these things, they all mount up, and then you've got to add into that the price of storage for after the vehicle's been crashed. It'll need to be stored somewhere, and then the claimant will probably need a hire vehicle that has to be added in. So there's lots of little bits and pieces like that which would all be added into the price of the insurance claim. So that's why it does add up quite quickly, and it's good for us because we can, you know, me and you, we want to go out and buy a bike, we can get some cracking deals. You know, with some bikes like yeah, I was lucky with this Ducati. I was very lucky that, you know, like it had just been serviced. There's hardly anything wrong with it. I've spent, after I bought it, I spent less than 100 quid to have it up in, as far as I'm concerned, brilliant condition. So I was well chuffed with that. But it's not just a one-off. I've had other bikes as well in the past. I've had a Kawasaki Z1000 SX. Now it looked in worse condition than the Ducati did, but I added up everything that I needed to do to it to get it back into good condition. I worked out how much the value of it would be, I did all my sums, and it worked out really well. And I had that bike I used it for over a year, and then sold it and still made a profit on it. Happy days, that was brilliant. And then there's also the Kawasaki Z900 I had. I'll put that up here as well. You can just pause the video and you'll be able to see the figures. But that worked out very well for me as well. I bought the Z900 not to keep it myself. I mean, I wanted to try it. I had it for a couple of months. I bought it, kept it for a couple of months, had a bit of a blast on it, and then sold it on again and made a few quid out of it, which is what I wanted to do. So when you go to look at one of these yourself, an insurance write-off, what should you be looking for? Well, some companies you can actually go and you can go and see the bikes before you bid or before you decide to buy it. I've bought my bikes from a company on eBay called Motormine, and I bought them blind. I haven't been to see them beforehand. I've just gone off the pictures and the description. Well, there's very little description on them. It just gives you the mileage, tells you what the insurance category is, and tells you if it runs or not, and then they've got lots of pictures. I guess they can't be telling you, give you a description of what the damage is, because they're bound to miss something off it, and there's going to be people kicking up then and stuff because they haven't got absolutely everything perfectly described on it. So they just don't describe anything. They just let the pictures do the talking. So let's take the Z1000 SX as an example. I worked out first of all how much that bike would be worth if it was in good condition and not being crashed. Then I took 25% off of that. Then I had a good look at all the pictures. Whoa, nearly hit that pigeon. I had a good look at all the pictures and worked out what parts I needed to get for it, and added up the price of all of those. Then I also added up in a little contingency, because there's always going to be something you miss, some little surprise and an extra expense on you, so I put that in there as well. So I added up all of that and I thought, right, this is the figure I've come to, this is as high as I'm going to bid. Now I want to make a little profit on it as well, so I'm going to take that off as well, so I'll put my bid in even a little bit lower. If I win it at that price, great. If not, there'll be lots of others come around. So you just need to do your due diligence beforehand. This wind is so strong, I'm getting blown around all over the place here. So as I've said, before you bid on a bike, or before you even consider buying it, check out in minute detail as best you can all the photos, everything on it, and make sure you can see as much damage as possible on it. See what's there, so you know exactly what you're getting into. But always leave a little contingency, because there is bound to be something you can't see. Sometimes it can bite you in the bum. I bought a Ninja 650 and I thought it was being very smart. It looked really good. I priced up all my parts, and then when I got it I realised the forks were bent, and that was an extra 400 quid into my budget. And there was a couple of other little bits as well I missed. So all in all, and it was a lot of extra work on it. I needed to do an awful lot of extra work on it than what I needed to. I still made a profit on it, but a very little profit, and for the amount of work I put into it, it was just marginal. But if I take the Z1000 SX again as an example, so when I was going to bid on that, before I bid on it, I checked what the spares availability was first. I went through eBay and some breakers and checked to make sure first of all that I could get all the bits that I wanted and what prices they were, and priced all that up first. The other thing, if you can get all the parts, like if you need a new fairing panel for example, if you can get that in the same colour, brilliant, it's just bolt on. The other thing is, if you need to get anything sprayed, know how much it's going to cost you. So you don't want any nasty surprises thinking, oh yeah, just get that panel sprayed, that'll only be 100 quid, and then you find out it's going to cost you 300 quid. So have a good idea of what those sorts of things cost you beforehand, and check out the availability for the spare prices, and make sure you can get everything. because that will make a very big difference. So in summary then, what do I think of buying insurance write-offs? No problem with them at all. Like I said, I've had this Ducati Multistrada for 2.5 years. I've put nearly 10,000 miles on it. I've gone round Europe on it. Well, around Europe. I've gone over to the Alps in it and through Germany. I've been around Ireland. Did a lot of the UK in it, and it's been absolutely, it's never let me down, never had any worries with it whatsoever. The Z1000 SX, again, did you know I've put a lot of miles on that. I went round all around the UK on it. I went round Ireland on it a couple of times with no issues whatsoever. And then when I sold it in complete confidence that the guy who I sold it to was getting a very good bike and getting a very good deal. Would I recommend buying a written off motorbike? Yes, absolutely. But just have your wits about you. Do your due diligence. Do all the sums, get as much information about the bike as you can, whether that's through phoning them up or through just studying all the pictures. But yeah, absolutely, I think it's definitely well worth it. And would I buy a category N bike that has already been fixed? Yeah, why not? Again, have your wits about you, do your due diligence, check it over really well. If the person you're buying the bike from has fixed it themselves, or even if they bought it off somebody else and they fixed it, try and find out if they've got evidence of what the damage was. I'd check around those areas. Yeah, give it a good check over around those areas that have been damaged.